again. Well, I'm going to zoom right on in with something serious.
Can people hear? Should I position?
Oh, I'm supposed to be.
I admit I don't.
But
really know how
I'm
to
so
use this.
comfortable sitting here now.
Yes. Let's see. I'm thinking.
I forgot about the mic.
Well, I don't know if you really need it or not, but
Yeah. Well, probably. Can people? Oh, it's not on yet, right?
no, it was. But you have to get a little closer.
Do?
It's on,
That's
it's
your
on,
something.
good, use it, yes.
Yeah, but that's pretty
Use
close.
one.
That's pretty close. And I put on my glasses and use the mic at the same time.
I don't know. Maybe
All right.
I can-
So Devin Cohen, the other poet, is my son. Is that supposed to be a secret? And because of that, and he's actually here visiting with his wife from Mexico, and they've been here for something like 3 weeks, and we get to see them for then, and then they're leaving tomorrow, and we might see them again in October. We'll probably see them in May or something, whatever. So anyway, I'm happy that he's happy. I know he's happy. With his interesting life. So anyway, so I said I'm going to zoom. I had another word, but I'm going to zoom right in on. So a lot of what I'm reading has to do with Devin. I've written a lot of as you know, a lot of stuff, and probably most of it doesn't have to do with Devin. But so I'm reading a story that connects up with something that Devin's going to read when he reads. So this, like I say, this is long and, well, not that long, and serious. It's 5 minutes. 2 Dolls, it's called. And I wrote it in the third person, but it's actually mostly true about me. The first part is about me, and the second part is about Devin, so I'll pause a little bit. Okay. She used to be a doll, unconscious from the anesthesia, dead from her great-grandmother. She was born a doll with a doll's brain. No one knew, but it was a stillbirth. Yes, she knows she shifted in the womb. She knows she stiffened in the crib. She knows she turned somber when her father went to war. And at night she rocked, a back and forth unison that made her mother tremble. And a year later, those X's in the sand, and soon those first shaky steps, perfect union of longing and delight. But all that time, a doll, a baby doll, true, but nonetheless, a doll. It lasted 17 months. It was 17 months before suddenly one day she stopped being a doll. Somebody touched her with a stick that had a star at one end, or the Sandman came in and wiped away the grains, and her head popped a window, her stomach sprang the door. It was nap time. She was being laid down, and she stared up at them, or maybe she didn't. She didn't shift, she didn't stiffen, but that was her real birth. And she asked for the dark. She wanted it dark. Off, off, she told them, pointing to the lamp. It's already off, they answered, but she wanted it more off than it could possibly be. And so she lay her down to sleep, and when she awoke, she was still not a doll. She could talk like a doll, she could dance like a doll, she could sleep like a doll, she could play with dolls. But never as long as time is striped day and night, never as long as space is checkered, empty, and full, would she or could she ever again. Never. Her child was not born a doll. No, her child was born another soul. Another soul, he tells her one evening, as they lounge on the big bed, another soul in this body. He is old enough to talk, but young enough to remember. It lasted, he says, 3 or 4 years. About half his life. Yes, he knows he shifted in her womb. He knows he squiggled in the carriage. He knows he sported little blonde curls and warty glory eyes. He also knows he was hungry for her. But all that time he was in the dark. It was like I was asleep, he says, with my eyes open. But your birthdays, she gasps. The parties and the presents. And that time in the park, you were 16 months old, jumping down the steps in that cute way, and suddenly I was so overcome by love for you, I reached out my arms and called out, I'm so happy. And you came running to me, and I picked you up and kept calling, I'm so happy. And for years after that, every time you wanted to be held, you'd reach up and go, happy, happy. She looks to him. He shrugs helplessly. That wasn't me. But apparently one day, 3 or 4 years later, it became him. He was, he says, at the bottom of the stairs. He was facing out, but he didn't remember coming down. He walked, he remembered, into the living room, and then into the bathroom. And that was the first time he looked in the mirror. That was the first time he looked in the mirror. Somehow, he tells her, he knew where to go. Somehow he knew what to do. She believes him, for something had once become her, and she too had known what to do. She asks a question. Was it scary? Did it feel scary? No, it wasn't scary, he answers, and no, it wasn't lonely. She had hoped it would be, but it wasn't. She tries another question. Was I with you at the time? But he shrugs. I was in the living room, just in the living room. She thinks back. Between 3 and 4, he had said. Could she remember a moment? An instant when his eyes had changed, when something had moved beneath his skin? She tries to flash on some stairs, or some lamp. Had he ever called off, off? Perhaps on, on. And again, had she been with him? If so, what could she have done? Her child yawns. I think, he informs her, it feels like I'm going out of this body again. She pats him, takes his hand, draws him close. You're probably just tired. She lies down with him. He yawns again. Of course she thinks he's just tired. Still, she kisses him and asks, is it still you? Are you still in there? Yeah, he murmurs. Then, just before his head goes limp, it doesn't happen anymore. It probably won't happen again. She does not sleep yet. She stays propped up behind him, holding him, kissing his shoulder. No, she thinks he was not born another soul, nor, she continues, I born a doll. It all has to do with childhood, with the nature of consciousness, the nature of memory. The consciousness develops just like the brain. It changes at various times, sometimes gradually, sometimes suddenly. It changes in waking, and it changes in sleep. It gets less doll-like. It seems to become other souls. Still a thought pushes in. Oh my God, this is the other soul. This beneath my hand. This within my arms. This is the second soul. This is a soul I did not give birth to. This is a soul I did not name. What, she asked herself, should I name this soul? For she realizes she's not frightened. For she has to admit she loves both souls. She is unfaithful. She has lost a child and adopted another and barely noticed the change. She is in fact glad to welcome the new soul, or any new soul he might become. And now it's the next morning and she remembers. Do you remember, she asks, kissing his hair. He nods. Are you still in there, she continues. Is it still you? He nods again, and she believes him. She believes he's in there, believes it's him, believes it's him. And I've since learned that memory possibly develops around 17 months. And I'm sure that somehow I feel that I was 17 months when I remember when I stopped being a doll. I suddenly became conscious and felt like I woke up, as Devin said when he described it. When something like that happened to him. So anyway, so now I'm going to read poems from this new book. It's called Truth and Beauty. It has Devin's painting on the cover. You want to take a picture of that? The photographer, the writer, there are other things. And it's about the course that I teach, that I developed, called Mathematics in Literature. I've designed the course so that students share their lives. They use the literature and branch off from there and share if they want to. And they seem to all want to share their thoughts and their lives. So this book is about that. And I start off by sharing my life and things in my life. So this is called, a lot of the titles are in the form of questions and from the reading. This is the reading for Rita Dove's poem, actually, called Flashcards. And I asked if anyone was afraid of flashcards, because I know a couple people who were when they were kids. And then I branched out and I said, in the written homework and in the discussion homework, if you like, talk about any fears you have had that you think nobody else has. So this is what comes from that. These are various students with names changed. Fiona's afraid of needles and objects moving on their own. Tammy's afraid of balloons. Vaughn's afraid of the down escalator. Linda used to be scared of the wind, but only when it came through car windows. Maura isn't comfortable with shopping mall Santas. Even people she knows dressed as Santa give her the heebie-jeebies. Natalie feels powerless when she sees men in professional dress shoes. Uma's creeped out by stuffed animals in museums. Their eyes make them look like they could still be alive. Carver doesn't like anything loud. Certain paths in the woods. Also the hallway from her parents' room to the bathroom. Lorinda was intimidated by the block schedule at her new school. Every time it changed, she was afraid she'd go to the previous semester's classrooms by mistake. Diana used to not quite trust books that don't have a cover. She thought that meant the book was meant for adults. Aura's scared of insects, failure, and the grotesquely oversized mouths of the kids in the honeycomb commercials. Flora was nervous about vacuuming when the house was empty. Someone could creep up behind her and she wouldn't be able to hear him. Hannah's afraid of the ocean. Laurel's afraid of all her dreams, so she's afraid to fall asleep. Casey doesn't like birthday cakes with lit candles. That and subways and the movies. Steve's mom used to have to phone his friend's house for him, in case his friend didn't answer what the parents did. About a third of the class checks behind the shower curtain before closing the bathroom door. And at least half the class is afraid of math. Every time anyone announced a fear, at least two others would laugh and call out, "Me too." The idea had been to name unique or unusual fears, but it seems these are pretty hard to come by. For every X, there exists at least 3 people who are afraid of X. Everything is something for someone to be afraid of. Can people hear? Because I'm not sure I'm doing the microphone. Don't take up my time by clapping, please. Thank you. So here from this book also, this is called Not As Much As Before. It comes from a excuse me? It comes from a comment that one of the students made that used to find out right away. Okay. Carver tells us she doesn't really love math very much anymore now that she's taken all that calculus. And then I read on someone's friendly questionnaire how she used to love writing, but not anymore, not since she's been in college. And somebody else, I used to be creative when I was younger. It's a phenomenon, I tell the class, not loving something as much as before college or before high school or before your first job. It's a phenomenon. If you feel that way, I say, you're not alone. Then I tell them about me. Before college, I was like a kid at a candy store with math. I'd plop myself down in the math section of Barnes & Noble, sit there on the floor for hours with math upon math book, and at home I'd write what I called my treatise, hours and hours with my treatise. The profundity of math could make me cry. But in college I had math homework just like all my other homework, and math tests like other tests, and math grades like other grades. It wasn't a candy store anymore. I wrote to my favorite high school teachers. It's just not the same. But in fact, I didn't really need the candy store in order to keep working on my treatise and alternative arithmetic, and to invent/discover the theorem that might solve the problem I'm working on right now. Candy was still candy, even without the store. And 50 years later, I'm still a kid with candy. Don't worry, I tell the class, looking extra closely at Cara. If you're not loving something as much as you did before, don't worry. Loving can come in spurts, and it can come back. Don't worry if you're not loving something or someone as much as before. And now I'm going to read, thank you, and now I'm going to read, well, I've been contending with back pain all summer, and that's been part of my summer vacation. That and thrift shopping. Somehow I managed to go thrift shopping. So I wrote a bunch of poems, 60-something pages of poems. So it's a book. It's called Lessons from the Back Pain Book. And so this poem is the titular, what they call the titular poem. It's, I'm pronouncing it correctly, I think. Lessons from the Back Pain Book. So there's 2 parts. 1, I mayn't move too far to the left, mayn't move too far to the right, mayn't bend and twist at the same time, mayn't sit too long, mayn't stand too long, mayn't walk too long, mayn't be lying down too long. And the doctor says, keep moving. This is the opposite of paralyzed. I have no choice but to move. And I'm tired of moving. I want to rest. The second part. Don't sit down for more than 20 minutes at a stretch. Don't walk around without taking breaks. don't lie down for too long either. Thus, I am further reminded of the impermanence of things. Not only does nothing last forever, nothing lasts more than 20 minutes. Sometimes less. All right, and this poem mentions Devin, and it also tells them what the back pain felt like before I started getting medication, and I'm going to PT, and that's really helpful. Anyway, so this poem's called It Gets Worse, and I wasn't sleeping for more than 15 minutes at a time. It was pretty bad. I can't help envisioning my back, meaning envisioning what it's like. It's filled with metal, heavy metal. It's all one piece, a single stiff board in there, a suit of armor. It's no longer my back, it's somebody else's back. Another back pain book is titled Back Mechanic. Yes, mechanics. Metal, hammers, nails, nuts and bolts all mixed up and working on one another inside my skin. I always hated spines anyway, the whole idea of them. When I was a kid, there was a TV program, Weekly Horror Stories. It was called The Tingler, and they had a picture of a lizard-like thing, a cross between a lizard and, yes, a spine. The thing was both frightening and frightened. And Devin at 4, after seeing the brain that wouldn't die, said, I'm sort of afraid of brains. Do I have a brain? Well, I'm sort of afraid of spines. Do I have a spine? The spine is too big, bigger than the Tingler. If it turned against me, yes it has, it would win. If anybody turned against me, it would win. No, I don't like the idea of spines, but I can't think of any better idea. All right, I always have to read anti-Trump poems. So here are two short ones. Actually, this also comes from my class. I asked the class, anybody ever had a Trump dream? We were discussing our dream, talking about our dreams. And yes, a couple have had Trump dreams, and here's the poem. Heather dreamt she killed him, but then she woke up right away. Too bad. He needed to be dead longer than that. And nobody else has had a Trump dream, not yet. Sort of like people don't have school dreams until they're decades graduated. So the Trump dreams will all come out when we no longer need them. A lot of people will kill him when he no longer needs to be dead. And this is called First Trump Nightmare. It's my own, very own nightmare. Somewhere, somehow, he and I are taking a walk. He's confiding in me, telling me that he killed a man. Killed him because he didn't like him. I love being confided, but this time I'm afraid. I just know that in a matter of minutes, his voice will turn sadistic as it says, now how will I know you won't tell anyone? Yes, indeed, how will he know? And whom will he confide in next? Okay, so I'm 74 years old, and I'm afraid of death. And here's a recent poem that I wrote about that. There were a number of poems about that. I just called it Great Fear of Death. Maybe I'll think of a better title later. I cannot believe my body won't mind being cremated, and then ashes, scattered or not. I cannot believe my body won't feel it, won't have a mind and a consciousness to go with it. And I wonder whether on my deathbed I'll think about that. I hope I don't. At best, I'll be in a hospital, having what's known as a peaceful, painless dying. Everyone doing their best for my body. Morphine or whatever, maybe massaging. And loving, even if none of them are my loved or loving ones. I hope I don't think for even a smidgen about, let me see. I'm losing my track here. Here we go. I hope I don't think for even a smidgen that all that very best for my body will, once dying has become death, turn into the very worst. I cannot believe the sheet over my face won't suffocate me, nor the wheeling of me out of the room won't frighten me, nor the rest of it. Again, I hope on my deathbed I forget about all that. I'm not forgetting now, but I hope I forget later. I hope I forget latest, my very latest of all. And the next poem that I'm going, I gotta read this one. It's called Bangles. I'm wearing bangles now. It's sort of a poem about growing old. Bangles. Ample, firm, pudgy, dramatic, and visible from any distance. They're the only bracelets I wear. Lately, though, there's been a problem. They keep touching some part of my arm. They make that part feel annoyed. And if I raise my arm, keep it vertical, they touch that entire cross-section. If I lower my arm, upside down vertical, they sit on my hand like water. They won't leave my hand alone. They make my arm tired. They'll give it gangrene. There's no good position for that arm. But that's only lately. Am I getting too old for bangles? Do I have to start wearing those twiddly, weak, weightless, insipid bracelets, the kind you can get in museums, the kind you can barely see, the kind you can barely touch? And I just want to end by reading a couple poems from the book, which has not arrived in the mail yet, so it's really my latest book. It's called New Heights in Non-Structure. And it's partially informed by our years of homeschooling with Devin and my next youngest child, who's in Brooklyn now. He has things to do in Brooklyn. So I'm going to read a couple of poems from that book, which I'm choosing poems that Devin's in. But they have to do with the other child who was homeschooling named Brett, and other kids that were in our homeschooling support group, people we knew. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. It's called The Existentialist Child. Devin's new pediatrician is fascinated in his homeschool. He pulls up a chair. And what sorts of things are you learning? Nothing, shrugs Devin. It's not a negative nothing, it's a neutral nothing, and nothing, as in where did you go out? What did you do? Nothing. He doesn't yet know about sorts of things to be learning. Doesn't know he's supposed to know what he's learning. Doesn't know learning is something people ask other people about. Doesn't know people think learning is better than not learning. Doesn't know learning is any big deal. And I hadn't known 5-year-olds ever knew. I mean, any 5-year-old, even school 5-year-olds. I thought what did you learn in school today was for the big kids. And I keep forgetting people expect 5-year-olds to answer questions, to know what questions are. I mean those kinds of questions. And I think I'm always surprised when a kid actually answers a question. I mean the question, the one that was asked. Maybe I'm even surprised when adults answer the question. Maybe I'm surprised, period. Maybe I'm just plain surprised. And I'll end with, I think I'll end with, all right. Devin's definitely in this one. It's called On Childhood Creativity. And actually, my daughter Marielle is here. When she was 6, she had a poem that I was very impressed with. I guess it was a piece of writing. And I said, "Oh, this is so great. You mean you wrote this? You did this?" And she said, "Yeah, it was my idea." And I said, "It really was?" And she says, "Well, it was my idea to copy it." Remember that, Ellen? Remember my talking about it, right? So this is called On Childhood Creativity. I specifically got Devin at 4 more than one type of stickers. Specifically brought out all the non-stickers, buttons, crayons, little round reinforcements. Specifically didn't hand him paper. But as soon as we got home, he asked for paper. As soon as he got paper, he got sticky. As soon as he got sticky, he got finished. All the stickers happily and efficiently peeled off the sticker paper and stamped with a proud fist onto the regular paper. Then he held it up, the 8.5 by 11, filled to the capillaries with every last sticker. I guess that time stickers were enough. Just plain stickers and just plain sticking, unmixed media, the simplest collage. It was his idea to get the stickers, his idea to stick the stickers, his idea, his shtick. And that, I guess, was enough. Now it's Devin's turn to read. Devin's turn to introduce. Oh, and this is a poem that's busy. All right, this is a poem. I discovered, I was going through my old books and sort of cleaning out, not finding too much to throw out. I certainly wasn't going to throw this thing out. This is an anthology. It came in 1988. And they're asking for an encore, so as they say, I guess it's time. It's called The Maverick Poets, and by Maverick, they basically mean poets that you can understand their poems. That's basically what they mean, am I right? I know it does. So Devin and Beck, really love this book. It came out in 1988, and it has all the big poets in it. It has Allen Ginsberg in it, and it has Charles Bukowski, a lot of the big poets, and I was asked to be in it. I don't always get asked to be in things that big poets are in. But I was. This was, again, back in, so this is a poem that I wrote Oh God, it was before 1977 because it's in a book that came out in 1970. Well, it was, the publisher started working in 1977. It was really my first book. It's just a kind of short poem. It's called Children Grow at Night. And Devin said I have to read it. Children do not always look cute when they sleep. Sometimes their foreheads are too high, the left sides of their lips hang down, or their mouths drool wide open as they breathe through their noses. Sometimes the thumbs still glisten from being sucked, or an arm dangles off the mattress as though dismembered. We are not always delighted upon checking on our sleeping children. We do not always smile with satisfaction in the dark. After all, it was an unguarded moment when sleep paralyzed their bodies, when they plopped down like little bunny ears, when the last ounce of consciousness disintegrated. So don't expect to feel like nodding your head or petting theirs. And don't be surprised if you see devils rather than angels hovering over them. Or if the music in the background is a dirge rather than a lullaby. Don't be offended if their limbs twitch at your stare, if the skin quivers, or if the word they form from their sleep is help. Don't be shocked if they snore, or if their throats are exposed as though waiting to be cut. Do not be disappointed if neither their hair nor the covers frames their faces, or their fingers lie limp between their legs. And do not be afraid of what lies beneath their eyelids.
I walk into the shadow realm from the deserted I land and name it and claim it, though it swoops me up tidily, waving greeting, eye open, half closed, blinking, bubbling, tubbling, lashing outwardly, receiving lit signals, signs, signaling glandular through synaptics to neurology, loci, input, output, off-put, ting, tinge, I recognate, cognition, stanza written, smitten like preservative, public, private spheres, circumference and domains, spoken of as to and what is the standpoint referential, a nearly forgotten resurfacing, tantric wraparound, coming from the Naval through the is and the on as copy, feline decimal expanse, spiraling upward, paradoxicality, perspectival, conclusion, inclusion, fusion, dimensions coming and going as eyes close, and what is facing you in that darkness is you. Facing oneself and overlapping worlds twirl, A and D intertwine. Fine garments are sewed by mechanicals, operated by hands, pressed at the tips, disjointed, connected to no arms, not bodies, but floating up on flotation devised devices, splicing gene symbiosis within a singular generation generative, and all the more rapidly as developmentals mantle, progress, illusory, hall ookery, flabbergasted, spewing forth right writ, in cylindricals and curvilinear ears on either side, notational, copious capriciosity of krios, ladar, kaning, clow, furtivity. And after 3 pages, more words began to write themselves, and write he, him, who, I. And after some things happened, he retreated into the most immediate, and thus it began again, or admitted that it was, and that it had never ended, and that the lessons of the supposed were not really lessons or at all, but all in stride with the operation endeavor. Stacked to the ceiling, bent beneath, a bag of pebble, a mosquito buzz in the air and the ear, waking from slumber, bit itch, churning and sloshing about, water sounds, vertical elongated mirror bent in middle, and stars like flicked from the brush, mouth speaking in television static, whilst visually driven into like universal portal tunnel stone. The clouds were forming, developing before my eyes as my eyes did. Boat floated upon as it was built by the very same one who was floating upon it, and as the stars began to ripple, so did my flesh. Page 1. Then, just then, the smoke came and engulfed the entirety of existence down to the smallest fraction or molecular module, and as the lowest denominator common was reached by hands attached to arms stretched as far as they could go, the rainbow cried out tears of relief and release. Page 2. Simultaneously, in an alternate reality, the feathers swam in the lake. The lake waved a welcoming greeting. Page 3. The earth quaked until it was no more than a fragment, a figment, asteroids 50-foot long, legs and toes curled like hairdo. Shooting stars, northern lightning, thunderous collapse into the portal over 90 billion centimeter depthly. Page 4. I climbed to the top of the tree. Page 5. Meanwhile, the three-way mirrored cabinet just above the sink on the first floor were turned in onto each other as to create a mirror portal hallway of sorts. I stepped into this mirror and landed into my body as if someone else had inhabited my body earlier that day, and since the beginning of my body's birth, I was happy to have arrived. Page 6. That was when the moon began to set. A clapping sound was heard in the background. I rather liked the feeling it was zoomed into the pore. I stepped inside this pore and was now inside of a biological system not that much unlikely the humanoid, yet it was not quite. The floorboards began to sing in overlapping rounds of 10. Dripping dewdrops gently slid down the side like slide, gliding gleefully with moisture upon the dry. The sky was now larger than I had ever seen it. Skewed implied suggestive differentiation, scumbling gestural distancing gaze, receiver pivot hydraulic socket, voice crack interval, lowest low to highest high, piano fingers, linger bass of melody voicing, cracking rhythm section, crackling record melt by heat, multiple overlapping voices upon every word. Words become prefixes, carried over and away, a glowing horse pedal, rosary, galaxy, June, moon, beam, glowing portal, parrot, pixie, fairy, dusting corners like glue, cosmic leaves dance and sing and play. 6,000 million years ago was the fall of the first empire. The emperor was unsettled, the forest was concave. Each blade of grass was assimilated to the all of all the rest, and the soil was muddy, wet, sinking in stomach. The protrusion was pterodactyl, docile. Fish swam with the current, and there you were, 20 miles from the empire, unknowing of its demise. On horseback you rode, faster than 60 bolt around the 60 bolt long screw, being driven like a car, 500 horsepower. It was the midnight hour. You slept as you rode, the horse did all the thinking. You arrived to find the empire still existing for you, though for the emperor it was no more. The people continued on working harmoniously together even without an emperor or empire. A one-way street with an enormous depthly hole in it, vehicles piled to the sky, clouds divided by them, raining gas and oil, a few alternate energy sources, tornadoing twister game, pretzel dough, salt, sodium, mustard, paint. Wondering why, floating high, trembling, mumbling, fumbling, trembling, gasping, grasping, clasping, chasm, to fathom, to gather, to invoke, to soak, to cloak. Thus known meant sprout, reroute, route, thick soul as thick skin, being past interior, remotely telelens visible to drawing board before not yet began, prior, outer, though ventriloquist puppet, recasting circumstantial or lowly. At every angle there was a perspective at which lines intersect, at the point at which they overlap. The passerby, passing by, biannual, bi-weekly flute. Clamor, glimmer, glamour, goulash, plop, flop, hop, tether, feather, hither, strewn, splatter, dimmer, scanner, moose, stock, glop, slop, hop, nether, veneer, quiver, loon, till utmost lowly sewer, vernacular, dust pilings, wash, setting off, springing, seasonal, alarmid, dewdrops, day-breaking, pontificate, calculating, letterhead, flavor, envelop, lick, riffing, rifling through, thrust, timeless, countless, chlorophyll, collagen, tile, multiples, flopping, frolicking, fleece, porcelain, copper garments, returning, seclusion, shelter beneath, chandelier, lengthy portalings, whimsical of the whimsy, obsolescence, trampling tremors, tumors, pansies, plentiful power plants, gassing, storming, heated heliograph, clarinet, clumsy, camping, campaign, chew churning, magnesium, phantom limb, phantom body, phantom self, phantom other, phantom universe, phantom thoughts, thinkers, thinking, beliefs, reflexivity, prehistory, proto-history, historiography, chronologies, tertiary, anthropomorphism, awakening from within, swan dive, bungee jump, scuba dive, auxiliary, exile, exhausted, nauseous, porous, pompous, haunted, taunted, daunted, staunch, floral, choral, neural, feral, decomposing, compose, composition, posit, positioning, postulate, compositor, healing like horse halted, columns like columnists, journals like journalism, turn like tornado, burnt like phoenix born, firing electrons, elected processing, turn like turnstile, stylish, articulated articles of garmented cloth, clother and clother, wisping, listed, listening, altruism, epiphany, affinity, floating through the land of the infinite words observed, tunneling peripheral expanse, a chance, meeting at a glance, receiving lit signal, sign, signaling glandular, vibratory, tangential. He secretly writes and shares it in secret places. Then when things begin, it is not so secret anymore. It's one thing to navigate between worlds, and it is yet another thing to combine those worlds previously navigated between into one cohesive world. Away, a post-disorderly conduction of electrified energetic tendency tangents, a blissful simpleton, an on-average collectivist gapping inherent truth for no reason, happy as hope, happy as a train wreck survivor, fooled, fueled, using commonplace folk ways, used like common speak as tightly written manuscript he does. He hopes he got it whilst he ponders upon the rest, to the ends of the earth, foreign, alien, otherly, his favorited form of communicational state of being, becoming unified duality exemplification. And oh, the weary, the dreary, as the sky cries out, tears of release for the whole city and everyone in it, with tears in their eyes that don't seem to release. For what for? So much to do about nothing, nothing at all, nothing at all, nothing is all, one in the same logic, logos, legos, legs. The meek inherit, though would meek desire such earthly inheritance. These meek appear below, whilst higher than the highest we all are, greater than the sum of its parts, regardless of anything at all, though 'tis no matter of greatness truly, and 'tis no matter of truth for that matter. For truth is the creation of a calculative, judgmental, and critical thinking skills shaped through the latest initiatives on the jurisdiction, on the latest summary on educational datum, particle, or atom affected by the observer plasticity of the brain, not necessarily mind directly, but by domino effect plasticity, possibly in a gear-like way, or very possibly another variable. Example, the notion that the brain affects the mind and vice versa, a mutually exclusive symbiotic relationship. Systems thinking, social capital, further research must be conducted. Anything and all. P.S. It should be noted that by mind what is meant is the action or verb or subject/subjective or direct, immediate, subsequently constant experience that is performed by the noun, proper noun, physical, material, object, brain. Hardship set sail, hard to be calloused and defensive and protected enough as to not be injured by the tide that carries one over to the other side. Thou shalt not confuseth intellect nor intelligentsia with egoism. Yes, lest ye findeth thine self extended familiar. Ego has a way of feeling like intellect and or intelligentsia when it is and when it isn't. Intellect, intelligentsia, smarts can have an ego about themselves, though it is not the ego, but rather first personal fictional character spoke whilst read in third person as if omnipotent or omniscient, at least, or something, perhaps thought for all known purposes. Oh my, how one or many, it seems, or would seem to my me's limited gaze, segment not as to an end finito in and of itself, but rather often more under cross-hatched and dressed and textured and with the intent of being more so of a means of an other alternating ending point of referential antiquity. This giving ending point of pivot is that of picking one from the tool choosing. Segmenting favor, explanations, rationalizations may follow as such. Hermetic, aromatic, hermit, monastic, means, meanings, duction, syncretic, panorama, plurality, multitudinal, vir versa uni. Hermetic, aromatic, hermit, monastic, means, meanings, duction, syncretic, panorama, plurality, multitudinal, vir versa uni. Deserted granules, breaking day of sun, after preceding at last sustenance, crawling infertility, carved step-ins, stoned into transmigratorium amidst middlings of hours, of montage, of auras, of oracles, planetarius, multi-atrium, fixations, frustrations, fades, dissolves, split screen, spiral staircase, encasing genesis, toxins, ease, dispersal, muscle memory, stomach holding on, feet forgiven, exonerate, embodiment felt, surround, electrical current, water vapor, delicate, tiniest, motionality, stillness, a calm, at rest, of evocation, of vocation, of emotionality, of evoking, evocation, of vocation, of evoking, emotionality, of motionality, holistic, clench, stretch, frio color, revelation, comparatives contained within box, encircle, appointed, pointed, corners aligned, lines disintegrated, dotted dots disintegrate, loop, calculation, ponder, getting somewhere, breaking of holistic, back at center, expanded as all, puzzling, piece together, place together, wholesome, fixed on fixing, fixation, fixative, fulfilling space, emptying, leafing, feeling, spatial, spacious, intel, pathic, empathic, pathos, feelings of inadequacy leading to thoughts of transcending anything needed, needy, desirous. Anything needed, needy, desirous as products of feelings of inadequacy. Thoughts of transcending thought. Push and pull, the tug of war. Sweating, crying out, nakedly nude, drooling, laying, rolling, sculptural relief, relive, relieve, revive, viva, vida. To be nomad is to be not mad. No mad, the weight of the length of the stay, a heaviness, pushing, pulling, discomfort, contortions, proportions, absorption, whining, wishing it was not so. Refined like refinery, interrupted, abrupted, wave function, conduction, electromagnetic precipitation, antenna palitos, camera eyes, ingest, exhale, entail, tiptoe, measuring lengthly, intoxicating, detoxifying, flying, guides, rides, finds, non-locality, non-spatiality, uncertainty, mystery, esquelas, microscopic entities, inner, outer spiralings, observer affected, affection, axis, reductionist, macroscopic, embodiment, bodily, scattered, solfeggio, propagation, the distance between two peaks, possession, possesses, lengthy, waves, angular, aperture, apart, punishment, reward, obedience, judgment, memories, pulse, shapes, free willingness, fear, doubt, am I, sky, merchants, ownerships, physical, spiritual, standardized, anger, blame, disconnect, encoding, time, measurements, healing, picking at healing of wound, wind winding down, wound up, picking of, like picking at healing of wound, healing like horse halted, like breaking upon horsepower, machinery, gaseous muck, all earthly fixations compensating for some of thing, like compensations like wages, battalion, spirit, stone, carved in shapes, shavings, grass, rhythms, trances, dances into exhaustion, faintly vision blurred, shadowing across the edges, flowery sense, wobbly, bodily, projecting trajectory, energized, utilizing flow, embracing, no more chasing. We are here, romanticism, breeze, beams, rays, solar shines, skin vibrating, sensitivity, tickle up spine, connecting mind, lovely aura surround of us is our shrine, spiritual, mystic, love adorned, we are so, all else is like picking at healing of wounds, we drift, we spin, a dizziness, body weak, we sleep, astrally projecting dreams together, twinned, intertwined, truly restful, blessed, joyous is our love. Love radiates, pulsates, is all is. Love, I, you. Why wish to be seen? Why wish not to be seen? Behavioral changes for self, for other. Reasoning for such inquiry, an internalized hierarchical in time, though transcendence given supposes causes for a new has a brewed instantaneously. Could not sleep years ago, woke up almost so close, about to happens, in progress right now, about to be, maybe do, mouth shutter, tactful, meditation, mind clears, meaning of it all anyway, remembers walking street, bicycle, showing, face keeping face as to all things, those happen when lost it, face grew tired, eclipsed, heaven, earth, soma, ergot, bread, spirits, cacti, icy waters, wholeness, pilgrimage, ancient tunnels, there is no more, that is it, that was it, there is no more, it comes, goes, feels good a while, then gone, and that was it, and there it was, cosmic ooze, combination from get-go, kinesthesion, frustration, aggression, hypothesis, I apologize for my sarcasm, wit, critical thinking's contraire, empath, compassion, praise, absorption, clearing, acceptance, beyond surface, intuitive, inner knowingness, divine, masculine, and feminine as one, neutrality, sensitivity, prime, first, feeling, energy, labels, primary, secondary, filtered, newfound awareness, essence, flow, joy, passion, viewing, existence, experiential, expansion, transmute, pure compassion, awareness, radiance, healing, centricity, resistance, divine companion, color, pleasure, bliss, abundance, soul alchemy, surfacing, companion, calling out, invocation, evocation, rainbow, ascension. I will never die, and even if I do, it's okay because it doesn't upset me. Doing this till nothing, till zero, till the end, plummet.